Can you solve this famous bearings problem? Here's a riddle for you. A hiker walks 10 kilometers due south from her campsite. From that point, she walks 10 kilometers on a bearing of 090 degrees. Then, she walks 10 kilometers due north and ends up back where she started. Where in the world is her campsite located? Well, I'm confused. What on earth is going on? This is actually a well-known riddle about bearings, and we can solve it using 4 key facts you need to know for your GCSE Maths. Fact number 1. Bearings are 3-digit numbers measured in degrees. That means 345 degrees is a bearing, but 35 degrees is not. 435 degrees is a bearing, but 5 degrees is not. For any bearings smaller than 100 degrees, we just stick zeros in front of the number until it has exactly 3 digits. That's why 90 degrees is represented by a bearing of 090 degrees in the riddle. If the angle has 1 digit, add 2 zeros to the start. And if the angle has 2 digits, we add 1 zero at the beginning. And remember, you always need to add a degree symbol to the number, otherwise it's not a bearing. If you want more practice with bearings, everything you need is in the box below. Fact number 2. Bearings are always measured clockwise from north. In maths, north is always represented as an arrow that points directly upwards from the starting position, labelled capital N. You can work out the starting position from the wording in the question. If it's the bearing from A to B, then A is the starting position. But if it's the bearing of A from B, then B is the starting position. Remember, clockwise means moving in the same direction as a clock. So, to measure a bearing, find the point you're measuring from and draw an upwards arrow from that point. Think of a ticking clock starting at 12 and then measure away. And remember fact 1, 3 digits in degrees. This angle has been measured anti-clockwise from north, so it's not a bearing. And this angle has not been measured from north at all, so it's also not a bearing. For our riddle, a bearing of 090 degrees means the same direction as 3 o'clock, which you might notice is also the same as moving east. Which brings us on to fact 3. Each compass direction is equivalent to a bearing. If bearings are always measured from north, then the bearing of north from north is 000 degrees. Notice those 3 digits again. East is 090 degrees, as we just saw. South is 180 degrees, and west is 270 degrees. But what about the compass points in between? Northeast is 045 degrees. Southeast is 135 degrees, southwest is 225 degrees, and northwest is 315 degrees. Those 8 bearings always correspond to the 8 compass points, and every other bearing is in between. So 038 degrees is somewhere between north and northeast. Back to our riddle. We know that the hiker starts by moving due south, which means a bearing of 180 degrees. And she ends her journey walking due north, which means a bearing of 000 degrees. Here, the word due means in a direction directly towards north, east, south, or west. If you want to learn more about compass directions and bearings, head to the BBC Bitesize website. Again, that link is in the box below. And now for our final fact. Fact 4. You can use parallel angle rules when traveling in the opposite direction. This one needs a bit more explanation, so bear with me. Sometimes a question gives the bearing of B from A and later asks for the bearing of A from B. This means you are now traveling back along the same line, but in the opposite direction. These sorts of problems are always simpler with a good sketch, so follow the next bit with a pen and paper if you can. Okay, let's imagine a ship is sailing from one island to another. Let's say from Los Angeles to the Isle of Trig across the Bering Sea. The bearing of the Isle of Trig from Los Angeles is 132 degrees. What's the bearing if the ship travels back to Los Angeles in the opposite direction? Which means we want the bearing of Los Angeles from the Isle of Trig. All north arrows are parallel, so you can use parallel angle facts to work out this angle. If you want an angles refresher, it's in that box below. Let's extend the line between the two islands. These two angles are corresponding, which means they are equal. Then, using the fact that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees tells you that the angle measured clockwise from north is 132, add 180, which equals 312. But remember, that means the bearing is 312 degrees. You could also solve this using co-interior angles. Have a go, I'll wait. Of course, you should get the same answer. What about if instead the bearing of the Isle of Trig from Los Angeles is greater than 180 degrees? Let's say 256 degrees. What is the bearing of Los Angeles from the Isle of Trig? This time, extend the line in the other direction. But again, corresponding angles are equal, so the answer is 256 subtract 180, which equals 076 degrees. If you'd like more practice, there's the usual links in the box below. Otherwise, it's time to solve this riddle. Our hiker starts by walking 10 kilometers due south from her campsite. Remember, that means on a bearing of 180 degrees. From that point, she walks another 10 kilometers on a bearing of 090 degrees or due east. Then she walks 10 kilometers due north, or on a bearing of 000 degrees, and ends up back where she started. We've used all our bearings facts, and something still isn't right. It turns out, to end up back at her campsite, our hiker cannot be walking on a flat surface. Instead, she must be walking on a sphere. And in fact, this only works if her campsite is located at the North Pole. Told you it was a tricky one. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, and come back for more.
For more maths videos, check out the BBC Bite Size YouTube channel.